Hello, good afternoon. I'm dreadfully sorry that I can't be with you today, but sadly I've got an infection in my ear and I've been forbidden from flying for the next week. So hence the reason I'm still here in Scotland, not able to join you in Barcelona. But let's use technology the way it should be used and let's look at the future. What's 2030 going to look like, and will we give AI the permission to transform our lives in health and care? Well, let's look to the future. Well, the best way to look at the future is by having an injection of reality. The challenges that you and I are facing in our own organisations, in our own regions, in our own countries and across Europe are no different to those in the developed world or even the developing economies around the world. The issues of ageing, increase in long-term conditions, inequalities, the difference between the haves and the have-nots, the challenges of the health and care workforce, the financial challenges that have been ever present since the global credit crunch, are our day-to-day realities. But this is our world. This is a pop concert in 1977 when everybody got out their cigarette lighters and waved them about in the air in time with the music. But today, people use mobile phones. Mobile phones are ubiquitous. They're part of our day-to-day lives. If you don't know where your mobile phone is or you lose it, a sense of panic affects us all. Now, when I show medical students this picture, no one knows what kind of building this is. Do you? Well, it's a bank. It's a bank from 1962. You can tell that from the fashion. But the reason people don't know what it is because we do all of our banking online these days. Let's look at some health and care facts, however. This is a hospital outpatient department in 1907 in London. And this is a hospital outpatient department in London in 2015. The lighting's different, the floor coverings, the wall coverings are different, the fashion is different, but the services are delivered in almost exactly the same way. People go to the hospital, people go to see their doctor, they have tests done and then have to go back a week or 2 weeks later to get the results. But we know that these services aren't going to be sustainable into the medium, let alone the long term. Not simply because the cost as a percentage of GDP across the developed world is increasing exponentially, but globally we're going to have a health and care workforce challenge by 2030. We know from workforce data from 160 odd countries around the world that there's going to be a global shortage of workers in health and care to the tune of about 14 million. What's that going to mean for you and I? Well, we will have to do things differently. When I say that, everyone says, well, don't worry, we are moving to digital services. My organisation does think digital. And when you ask them what that means, they usually say that they send documents electronically in PDF format. When you dig a little deeper, you find the hospital then prints off the PDF document into paper. They do the transaction on paper, they rescan it and send it on somewhere else. That's not really digital. That is us kidding ourselves on we're doing digital. So in my organisation, DHI, we do three things. Yes, we do some technical innovation, that's the technology, but most of our time and effort is on service innovation and also business innovation. What are the business models of the future that will allow us to adopt and scale digital technologies? And I would suggest to you, for us to move to a good future in 2030, we need to do all three at the same time, not just one or two well. But what about the external environment? Well, it is changing. It is ever changing. The Internet of Things is not here today. It is just round the corner. As we move to low-powered wireless networks being rolled out across cities, as 5G eventually comes on stream, The tsunami of data from wearable devices, from sensors in the street, from sensors in our own home, is going to be readily accessible. And for us in healthcare, we need to understand how we're going to use that data, how we're going to make it accessible in a safe, secure, and fully consented way to make better informed choices for ourselves, our populations, and for our communities. So in DHI, our vision is that innovation in digital health and care will help Scotland's people live longer, healthier lives, but at the same time create sustainable services. So it's not simply about better services, it's not simply about safer services, it really is about sustainability and how can we help Scotland's economy grow. So our themes are going to be of no surprise to you. We're looking at healthy aging, we are looking at capacity and capability building using digital tools and services. We're looking at how we can address non-communicable diseases, including mental health issues, using digital products. We're looking at citizen empowerment, how we can use digital to empower our citizens to deliver more of their own care, be empowered to make better informed health and well-being choices, and how we can support the workforce, the current workforce as well as the future workforce, to use and work smarter by taking forward digital products and services. So what is our future? It's not about technology. It's all about people. It's how we can make people who deliver health and care services more accessible to those who need them, when they need them, and where they need them. But to recognise where digital can add real value. Because I would suggest to you that if we design services appropriately, we can improve choice through digital technologies. We can give control back to people through artificial intelligence and technology. We can better connect them to their environment. We can allow collaborations to take place. We can allow people to contribute back into their own communities. We can unlock the knowledge, skills, experience and resources that each and every one of us has within inside ourselves and make that available to our communities to better serve ourselves and our families. So it's not about products. It's all about services. So it doesn't matter how good your technology is, unless you've got the service design right, it'll never work. But we always seem to forget that. The other thing is that we're all different, and yet we're still deploying single IT systems and expecting it to be attractive to all of our patients and their families. We need to recognise that that's not going to work. The global technology companies have worked that out. It's all about personalisation. We need to recognise that what is of interest and what works for me is different to what is of interest and what's going to work for you. And we need to make sure we build that into our thinking and into our products as we move forward. So, in 2030, we're moving to next generation services. What does that mean? It means we need to listen to what we already know. We know that healthcare is not the answer to the challenges in society. In fact, if you look at the inner ring, this is the social determinants of health, we know that in fact the provision of healthcare only has a 20% impact on our health and well-being. 30% is down to lifestyle choices, eating, smoking, lack of exercise, alcohol intake. 10% is down to housing, and 40% is down to social, environmental and economic factors. But what we did is we matched about 220 data points that we collect about individuals against the social determinants. We find that life and death decisions being taken for you, me and our families by our healthcare system is dependent only on about 16% of available data points. If we can blend consumer-generated data, data generated from devices that we have with us, our phones, our Fitbits, our sensors in our own home, and so on and so forth, we can get a much more rich picture. And what that can do is it can take population health data and weaponize it and make it really important for us. And that actually moves us into where we will be by 2030, which is the field of personalized prevention. The other place we'll be in 2030 is we will be taking Industry 4.0 technology learning and we'll be deploying it into health and care. We're not simply going to regard the hospital as a factory and do what we're doing at the moment, which is making it more efficient by looking at care pathways and putting digital tools and services to improve efficiency and safety. But we will be really taking cyber-physical systems out into the community, and we will be weaponizing, I use that word again, our individual citizens. We will be giving you the tools to be able to manage your own data, to allow you to make better informed health and well-being choices, to deliver more of your own health and care, supported by the system, rather than having to be dependent on the system for all of your health and care needs. So in 2030, and now in fact, it's all about citizen-centered data sharing. It's about recognizing the citizen should be the point of should be the point of data integration, not our back-end systems. We need to give artificial intelligence not to healthcare organizations, but to you and I, as citizens, to work on our data to allow us to manage our lives more efficiently and effectively from a health and care perspective. So when we look at the service design principles that will get us to 2030, they need to be about predictive and proportionate care. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. We need to get the balance right between the user and system needs and focus on the user. We need to look at citizen-activated services. We need to give citizens tools to activate and access services on their own terms, not having to comply with services design put in place and imposed by institutions. We need to look at a set of technology design principles. We need to look at a set of technology design principles focused on creating data only once and using it many times. We need to trust in distributed data, and the person needs to have true ownership of their own data. And finally, we need business principles, open solutions that scale and evolve. We need to focus on services, not products, and we need to serve the consumer and not simply the commissioner of services. So we have promoted and are promoting this concept of Care 4.0, taking Industry 4.0 technology, bypassing Health 4.0, which is all about hospitals, and looking at where we live our lives, and that's in the community. So in the future, it's all going to be about us as individual, the person, in our own community. It's about co-management of care. It will be about using technologies to empower people to make better decisions. It will be about personalising the health and care experience. It will be recognising complexity and using AI and machine learning to allow people to navigate complexity and give them flexibility in how they access and deliver their own care services. So that's what we've built. It's about consumer data exchanges linked to a personal data store, with having services plugged into that data exchange, which allow data to flow seamlessly into back-end health and care systems, and for health and care system data to flow seamlessly out into your person health file, which you have complete control of. So the future is not about systems becoming more flexible to look after you and I. It's about us having access to technologies to allow us to make better choices, to manage our own conditions, to interact and activate services that are on our terms, and by doing that, deliver sustainable services fit for the future. So what I want to do now is to invite my colleague Grant Riley to demonstrate that what I've talked about is not simply rhetoric, but indeed is our reality today, but needs refined to become our reality of tomorrow. Thank you very much for listening.